Welcome! You're listening to Making Relationships Work. We're a company focused on women and their marriage. We lead and teach women just like you how to grow into and access, whenever you need to, your wise woman's self. The part of you who is deeply connected to your purpose, your innate wisdom, and your husband and family. We teach women in marriages how to rebuild trust and connection, to work through conflicts no matter how deep, no matter how painful, and to lead your marriage to a place where the two of you experience marriage mastery. This podcast is about learning the systems and techniques that truly work to reconnect you back into your marriage so that you can experience the freedom that comes with a masterful marriage. Since this podcast is totally free, if you're getting tons of value and you want to support us and make sure that you get more of this good stuff, subscribe below and rate and review our podcast today. Now, on to the show. Good morning, good evening. Hello, friends. Hello, women making marriages work. Hello, people watching us on YouTube or watching us or listening to us on a podcast via the Making Relationships Work channel. It's so good to be here. I'm so excited to have you. We're going to do a really important topic tonight, and that topic is around dating your husband. Now, this week I wrote a post in my Women Making Marriages Work Facebook group about enjoying the process of dating your husband. And there was a lot of discussion about how this wasn't possible, this didn't really work, how they wanted to, but they didn't know where to start, the disconnect was high, how do we do it? And the thread actually got quite a lot of interaction and commentary and curiosity. And so the premise that I started with is that if dating your husband isn't fun, then you're doing it wrong. And I don't mean that as a critical evaluation. I mean that as like there's something out of balance. There's something that's not working for you. And that means that we can do a diagnostic on what that is. And so what we're going to be talking about, hello Leilani, I assume you can hear me. So just give me a thumbs up. But what we're going to talk about tonight is, I guess, what is actually going on when dating's not working, and what the diagnostic needs to be, and then what we're going to do differently. And so when we know what is the case for you, and we know what it is that we need to understand about the two of you and the dynamic that's occurring, it's much easier for us to make an informed decision about how to do things differently. And so we're going to spend this Facebook Live kind of defining what the problem is, looking for a diagnostic, and I'll give you things to think about and things to integrate into your formulation, because we're scientists here, yes. And then we're going to say, well, what do we do with that? Okay, so in that post, I wrote about dating your husband. I talked about the gift of receiving, the gift of the pleasure that comes with getting dressed up or choosing your place to eat or picking a time, getting to spend time with your beloved in this kind of safe, enjoyable, comfortable, connected space. That's what dating is, right? And I also talked about how ideally it ends with some intimacy, emotional, physical, sexual intimacy at the end. And I said, if this isn't your experience of dating, you're not doing it right. And this is what we're going to talk about today, because there's a lot of pain out there around the dating concept of your husband. And so it's a really well-known phenomenon, right? We date our husbands, we date each other, even when we're married, because that's what keeps the spark alive. That's what reminds us about what's special about the two of us. That's what refuels our sense of belonging to each other. We can take a load off, we can have some fun, all of those things, yeah? And so what I want you to know and what I want you to have is access to that. And I want you to understand about what the barriers are likely to be around why you're not experiencing that. So we're going to dive right in now. I would encourage you to ask me any questions that you have. I posted in that thread that I was going live on this topic. So if you posted in that thread and you have a question, you want me to talk about it, feel free to type in the comments. I can see them come up as we're talking. And as I do that, we can engage and have a conversation. And if I miss you, I can come back and write to you. So, excuse me, I'm actually a little bit unwell. So we are going to cover off the main reasons that my beautiful women in our Women Only Making Marriages Work Facebook group have given us for why it's not working for them. So I've got it written down just out of camera. So I'm just going to have a read to you about what the main things are. There's a sense that money is tight and that our husbands are resistant to the idea of doing something which involves money. There's, hey Leandra, I've been missing you. I'm glad to see you here. There's a sense that if we have spare time, we spend it in friends. We don't spend it as a couple. There's resistance around spending one-on-one time together and avoidance of wanting to have conversations together. And there's essentially this resistance to wanting to talk about anything that might come up in that one-on-one space where there's no interactions, yeah, or no distractions. And so there's this, what the common thread is for me is using reasons like money or wanting to be with friends or kind of not wanting to talk about anything in detail. We're using that to shield ourselves in the relationship. And so why would we be doing that? That is a curious thing. So if you've got symptoms on the surface that are things that are avoidance based or defensiveness around, I don't want to spend the money, or they might be blaming, like I don't want to go out with you because when we go out, this doesn't work, or justifying, let's just not do that because I can do this, this, and this. So we've got kind of the deny, the blame, the justify, the defend. We've got resistance essentially around bringing ourselves together in an environment. Let's define what dating is. The idea around dating is pleasure to be together, pleasure in getting ready for it, pleasure in eating or drinking, pleasure in kind of being in the space of your beloved and soaking each other up outside of the stretchy, noisy, busy life that we lead. And so if you don't want to do that, that's curious. And if you are resistant to that, what does that tell us? Well, it probably tells us that it causes our people, our husbands, perhaps women who are watching this who are also resistant but haven't self-identified. What that shows us is that the health of the relationship is out of balance. Perhaps it's not that strong. Perhaps it's in a process of crisis and trying to find its feet, the relationship. And so as we talk this through, what we need to really get clear on is the diagnostic about what's going on in the relationship. Okay, so there's you, there's your husband, and then there's this co-created entity called a marriage. Yeah, we're talking about a co-created entity. You're saying, I want to invest more time in that entity. I want to be there with you. I want to feel like we're a we, not a me. And he is saying, I don't want to do that. And so we can take it from a surface level. So for the financial kind of constraints, perhaps there's very reasonable reasons why you can't go out of the house and date, or you have to be very thoughtful about finances. There's a billion conversations about this on the internet. I'm not going to rehash them, but essentially there's always a way to do a low cost connection time. So you can Google that. We're not talking about that. That's not my thing. So go and figure that out if that's a simple solution. But we don't talk about simple solutions in this group, do we? We talk about bigger, deeper, harder, underlying reasons why this isn't working. Okay? So we're not afraid of hard things. We're not afraid to talk about the hard things. We're not afraid to delve into what's really going on. And it's not really about Googling a cheap date or a way to date at home. That's not what this is. This is an emotional resistance to spending time with you, or if you'll have the resistance to the dating, with your husband. And it's an emotional resistance to investing in the marriage. So what's up with that? Let's call it tight. Let's call it clearly what it is. So if you have one or two people who don't want to invest in the marriage and don't want to enjoy themselves in the pleasure of being married, then what are we really talking about? We are talking about a marriage where there's two me's, not a we. And what does that tell me? It tells me that we haven't, this is a big one, we haven't been able to set the marriage up in a way where both people feel safe, where both people are enjoying the other person and want to spend more time. So what does this tell us? It tells us that we're probably not very good at repairing damage that happens through fighting or conflict or disagreements. And so that is sitting unresolved. And we're probably also not able to really invest in each other in terms of connection and friendship and that sense of solidarity that it's us against the world. Because people who chose to get married with each other were in love and were very committed to a relationship with each other at some point. And so if you're offering the opportunity to date and it's not being received, what's the block? That's really what we're talking about. What is the block? What is the pain point? What is going to happen if you don't resolve this? And so here's the thing. If you know this is true for you now, here's the first diagnostic. How long has this been true for? When did the resistance of spending time together start for you? What was going on at the time? How many years has this been a problem? Okay, so those are the beginnings of the diagnostic. Here's the really interesting bit that I want you to think about. What is going to happen if you leave it like this? Okay, so this is about saying what is going to happen if you stay two me's and not a we. What is going to happen to your marriage if both of you or one of you don't want to enjoy the pleasures of being together and celebrating your marriage or just hanging out and being great friends? What is going to happen? And we diagnosed why this is a problem because probably you're not very good at resolving conflict, repairing after a disagreement or a fight, and being able to come back stronger than ever. And so we've got ourselves to the point where we're two separate people doing two separate lives under the same roof. And we can cope with that so long as we don't have to get too close. But of course, being close is what a masterful marriage is. And it's what all of us want. It's what all of us deserve. And you are saying, I want this and I can't connect with my husband. This isn't working and I want it to work. And so I guess my worry for you, or my thought for you, is around what are you going to do differently? And so as always, there's our masterclass, and that masterclass has a set of skills in it that allow you to reconnect with your husband. And so I'm going to ask Leilani to post that in the comments. That's really important because this live is not a skills-based training, right? So go and look at the skills-based training if you haven't done that. That's one thing. The second thing is you've got your diagnostic, right? So you've got the beginnings of formulating where it went wrong. Your next opportunity is to really understand that if you don't lead something different, nobody else is coming. There is no superhero that's going to swoop in, sweep you off your feet and save the day. If there was, why wouldn't it have happened already? If you are the one who's saying to your husband, let's do this or let's do that, and he is not coming along, he's not going to suddenly have an epiphany and right, and come and sweep you off your feet and fall madly in love with you. That's just not how it works. And so if you are here because you want to be the matriarchal leader of creating a marriage that is in alignment with what your greatest dreams of being connected with your partner are. And so here lies the opportunity. The opportunity is to look at where your marriage is, think about how it has got to here, look at what your leadership opportunities are, and you will need new skills to do this, which is in the masterclass, and then to have a conversation with your love. So here's the next bit. The conversation with your love should say something like this. Use your own words, but same intention as I'm about to give you. My love, I love you, and I've been missing you. And I've noticed recently that we haven't spent as much time, just you and me, the way that we used to. And I would like to reclaim that time together so that we can feel more like a team, like we used to. And I would like to invite you out on a date as part of getting to know you again and part of claiming our friendship and our special time together. Okay, so that's the introduction. What's going to happen, probably, for those of you who have commented, is you're going to get some resistance back. And we already know why, right? It's at the beginning of this Facebook Live. You're going to get resistance back because you have two people who have co-created a marriage where there is leftover resentment, hurt, blame, anger, unresolved issues, and probably a sense of betrayal or negativity towards each other. And so you're getting someone who doesn't want to come back and be with you. And so what do you do in that moment? You call it out, like I just did. You don't call it at him, though. You say, it seems to me that we have left over pain and resentment and damage from when we haven't been able to resolve things. And I would like to do that differently with you. Can we talk about that? Yeah? And so all of a sudden, you've got two ways that I just taught you to open the conversation. You stay calm, connected, and kind. You stay with curiosity. You can receive what is really going on for your person. And this is what I want you to have. I want you to have access to understand so you can diagnose, so you can make an informed decision. Then you're going to need new skills. That's what the masterclass is for. So pop that masterclass in as a priority for you to watch to get the skills. And then if you need more help, you can book a free call with us and we'll get really clear on your specific situation, which will be quicker because you've done this diagnostic, yes? And then we can give you a plan, yeah? Sometimes that might mean you have an invitation to come in and work with us. Sometimes you won't, but we'll send you where you need to go. That you have my promise. And so here's what I want for you. I want Wednesday night date nights every month. I'd actually like it for you every week, but let's go with every month. And on that Wednesday date night, you take it in turns where you get to choose what you're going to eat. And maybe you don't get to change your clothes because you go there straight after work or what have you. But you feel excited during the day, looking forward to being with your friend. And you get that experience of sharing an antipasto platter for two and not being interrupted by any child ever. And you get that experience of trying two different wines and having a sip out of each glass or whatever combination of drink you like. I'll try your type of tea and you can try a mouthful of this kind of designer beer that I found. Whatever your thing is. I want you to use that time to remember each other, to remember how good it feels, and to remember why you got married in the first place, to reinvest in the we, the us against the world, this opportunity for us to connect and deeply love each other and unplug from work stress and community stress and family of origin stress and family that you're leading stress and all of the stuff that we carry everywhere we go. I want you to have access to do what you need to do in order to be together. And if there's a barrier in the way that's stopping you from getting to be with each other and enjoy each other, I want you to use the language I gave you in this Facebook Live to start the curious exploration of what's really going on here. You feel me? And I want you to be open to receiving that. And I want you to do your very, very, very best to be able to do it differently so that the two of you don't keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. That's not working. That's why you're here. That's why we're talking. That is what our mission is for you to get the life and marriage you've dreamt of. So my love, that means you're going to have to show up differently. You're going to have to show up with wisdom and power and connection and kindness, and with this sense that no matter what you talk about, you got this. You can handle any kind of conversation so long as it means you get to be together and work it through as a team. Now, that is terrifying for many women because we don't know how, or we don't feel comfortable in having hard conversations about big feelings. And let me tell you, when you know how to do that, there is nothing in the world left to be afraid of. And so if you need help in that specific situation, you're going to need to book a call with me, because this is a big piece of the puzzle. I want you to be equipped to be able to handle anything. In fact, I'm about to jump on my regular call with my group of women that I'm working with in a very deep way. And one of them at the moment is talking to me about what it means for her if she doesn't decide to go ahead with her marriage, if she ends that marriage. And she said, I don't know, I don't really want to bring it up in the main group, because what if, that doesn't send a good signal to the other women? And here's what I said. There is nothing that you can't talk to me about in front of everybody. There is nothing off limits. There is nothing too hard. There is nothing too personal. There is nothing too painful. There is nothing that you can do that I'm afraid of. And there's nothing that you can say that I'm afraid of. I can handle your pain and your truth and meet you where you are now. And that, my loves, is literally what I want to teach you how to do. I want you to be able to hold these conversations in a way that allows people, your husbands, perhaps your family members, to reveal who they are. And for you to be able to say, I see you and it's okay. And I can handle you and be with you and not mind your big emotions, because I'm steadfast and strong. I've got roots as deep as a tree, and I love you, and I stand with kind boundaries around my safety in support of you. And so I guess this is what I want you really to know about dating your husband. If there's resistance around dating your husband, there is probably a lack of feeling strong from you to deal with that big conversation about why you two don't want to be together. And I don't mean that in terms of divorce. I mean in terms of that one-on-one dating context. And so if that's you, it's the masterclass. It's the booking of a conversation, but you don't necessarily need to do either of those things either, so long as you've got a diagnostic and you use those conversation starters to hold that conversation and to lead your marriage where you want it to go, to teach your husband, who very often has not had a practice at talking about what it feels like to be him. Remember, he grew up in a time where boys didn't cry and we didn't talk about what feelings were, right? And so if you need to take the leadership in terms of setting the cultural tone, that is okay, and here's how you do it, then that is your job, my loves, because you have the wisdom, you have the leadership, you have the connection, and you have everything you need to be able to transform the way your marriage is sitting up. Okay? And I want that for you. So I'm going to check if there's any questions here for me, because there's a lot of comments. Sarah Ackerman. Yes, my love. Okay, Sarah says she needed this encouragement. And so have it, Sarah, my love. Have the encouragement and have my belief that you can be the difference that you need in your world, because you can. And it can be different today. Today is the day that anything can change. Every single moment is an opportunity for a new beginning. You just have to really be clear on what the problem is, and then what is your commitment to leadership and to change. That's really what we're talking about. All right, my loves, it's time for me to go and see my beautiful group of women who I adore, and I can't wait to go and do that. So I'm going to say goodnight to you. I wish you a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you back here next Monday night. All right, much love to you. Bye, loves.